now it is our honor to invite 1986 Chemistry Nobel Laureate Dr. Yuan Tseh Lee to give us the introductory paper. Dr. Lee was born and grew up in Taiwan. He graduated from National Taiwan University and then his master's degree from National Shanhua University. He then got his PhD degree from UC Berkeley and became a professor of chemistry of University of Chicago, University of Berkeley later on. He was the principal investigator of chemical sciences division at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, United States. In 1994, he was invited back to Taiwan as the president of Academia Sinica, while continuing his research as a distinguished research fellow of Institute of Atomic and Molecular Sciences. He retired from the president post in 2006 and now is the president emeritus of Academia Sinica. He is also the president of International Council of Science at present. He was awarded the Fellow of American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He is a member of the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. He is academician of Academia Sinica Taiwan. And in 1986, he was awarded the National Medal of Science of White House and the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. In recent years, he dedicated himself to education and environment and food safety issues. While majority of people are concerned what we are going to have today for lunch, but he is concerned with what we are going to have for next decade or 50 years later. So let us give a big hand to welcome Dr. Lee to give us his speech entitled Food Security in Low Carbon Society. Dr. Lee, please.
Everyone, thank you very much for your kind introduction. It is my Dino and other distinguished colleagues. It is my great pleasure to be here and to be in a little bit different environment which I'm used to meet. Actually, when I was young, very young, before the end of the Second World War, when I started mom in Taiwan, school dismissed and we ran into the mountain, live in the farm, and the real sense of accomplishment I had at the time was planting vegetables. And went from the bottom of the hill, carry waters, and irrigate vegetables and enjoy the fruit. But at that time, as you know, during the war, we didn't have electricity. Everything we depend on is really the sunshine. And the sun was so powerful, and the origin of all life on Earth, including human civilization, it all came from the sun. I still remember at that time, cabbage was our main vegetable. Its shelf life is longer. You don't have need refrigeration. Shelf life is longer, and we always hang cabbage from the roof. So when we were sleeping at the night, we have to worry about the bombing. During the daytime, it's the real bomb. During the nighttime, it's cabbage. But anyway, it was a wonderful time. And 23 years ago, it was interesting. I did receive a call from mayor's office of Milano. He said he wanted to celebrate Milano as a city of science and technology. Wanted me to come to give a lecture. I flew into Milano, show up in the conference site, and then TV crew came and said, Professor Lee, I want to interview you for 5 minutes before you start. And he asked me all sort of questions I never imagined, all about food. And I said, wait a minute, why are you asking me a question about food? And look at the program. I said, Professor Lee, expert in alimentary chemistry. Nobel Foundation said elementary chemistry. But mayor's office said alimentary chemistry. So I gave a talk to alimentary chemistry. I hope today will be that day. You are not alimentary chemistry. I'm not talking about alimentary chemistry. Anyway, after the Big Bang, it took about 9.6 billion years before the solar system was formed. And because of the special location of Earth and special condition, life started about 1 billion after the formation of the solar system. And from that time on, the sunshine is really started to recycle material on the surface of the Earth. And Earth evolved, life evolved, and humans started to appear on Earth. And this Earth is about 4.5, 4.6 billion years after the formation of the solar system. You see, when our ancestors appear on the surface of the Earth, our impact to the natural environment is not very big. And even until 300 years ago, you look at the Aboriginal tribe in Taiwan, this is the wedding ceremony. In this picture, you see housing, clothing, everything is provided by sunshine. What do they eat? Probably mostly vegetable. But at the same time, the important thing happened on the surface of the Earth. Well, we are still part of nature in Europe at the time, but a big diversion, great diversion occurred, and human society started to run away from sunshine and away from nature. What I'm talking about is the Industrial Revolution. Started really changing. This picture, I just want to show you here, everything you see, almost everything you see, concrete or steel, aluminum, all dug out from the ground and used fossil fuel to transform it. And then compared with what you see, was all provided by sunshine. So we really have a great divergence and started to run away from sunshine and started to depend on fossil fuel so much. And if you look at the United States, in 1850, you'll see over 90% of the energy coming from the wood burning, and 8 years later, only down to 10%. And fossil fuel from 10% went up to 90% in just a short span of 80 years. In Asian countries, the same. Anything, it's really fast. And this is really a great divergence. We dissociate from nature, dissociate from sunshine. I think those who are interested in the vegetable certainly will understand what I'm saying. Of course, Industrial Revolution, we release lots of energy. Agriculture is mechanized, and as you see, normally labor is replaced by machine labor, and lots of sunshine is replaced by fertilizer provided by fossil fuel. So nowadays, when you wake up in the morning, start to eat a piece of bread, I can show you about 30% of the bread are from fossil fuel, going through fertilizer, going to your bread. So when we go to low carbon society, those 30% will be gone. And advancement of science, technology, available energy, we do have an exploding production and consumption. Early last year, Henry Ford even make automobile mass produced, in mass production, only on the mechanical thing. Chemists, synthesize all sorts of things, and mass produce and become a consumer product. Nowadays, normally washing machine, TV, iPad, and every kid has the high-tech product with them. And that population, exploding production and consumption are causing some problem in the agriculture area. Or you do see many different agricultural products become very abundant. Although some of the situations you might not like to see. Then meat production, grain production all went up. Actually, during the last century, population went up from 1.5 to 6 billion people, increased by a factor 4. Per capita consumption went up by a factor 2. So during 1 century, consumption went up by a factor 8. And then during the last 50 years, we did exceed the capacity of what sunshine can do for us. And of course, the consequence of those are producing enormous amount of waste. Enormous amount of waste. And as consumption increases, population also increased. The human population explosion, as I said, it increased by a factor 4 by the end of the last century, 6 billion. Now we reach 7 point almost 2 billion as of this month. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Sri Lanka. The slide showing 6.1 something and increasing second by second. I think it's probably 7.2 billion on Earth now. And we are projecting we will have 9.6 billion by 2050. That will be 40% more. 40% more people. I remember in 1950, scientists have been saying that Earth can support about 2.5 billion comfortably. Of course, as population goes up, non-renewable resource will be depleted and starvation will take place and growth will be unsustainable. Then you see worldwide environmental damage. And aside from population explosion, production, consumption increases, we did find human footprint start to become extremely important. And if you look at human footprint, you're talking about carbon dioxide increases, N2O concentration in the atmosphere, methane, ozone depletion, those are temperature change. And extreme weather event, this is talking about great flood, ocean ecosystems deteriorating, coastal zone structure deteriorating, biochemistry on the coastal zone is also deteriorating. So almost everything is really deteriorating. It's really horrible. And many of those are, of course, related to the human survival, it's related to the agriculture. And that spectacular human impact on the planet caused enormous problem. At the present time, we are consuming about 1 point times the Earth. When I say 1 point times Earth, you ask, what do you mean? Actually, what I mean is when sun irradiates on the surface of the Earth, start to recycle things, and the capacity will be reducing if we keep on cutting the forest and change the farmland. And then what we are doing is now we are consuming 1.5 times the Earth. It means that we are still cutting down the forest. Fish stock in the ocean is still depleting. When I said that, if my granddaughter said next to me, she certainly would say, Grandpa, what you guys are doing will not allow us to survive, isn't it? Certainly. It's going to be a great, great problem. We are overloading the Earth. And that only happened first time in human history during the last 50 years. We are overloading it, and Earth is really deteriorating. It's sinking. So, if we said that, then you will certainly understand that our discussion in the international gathering, somebody said, we in the developed country want to help you capacity building, science education, so developing country will be able to develop. Most of the people say no. So-called developed country are way overdeveloped. If a developing country wants to develop the way it has gone through, mankind will be doomed. Won't have future. But when I was in Africa, people look at this and say, Professor Lee, don't say the earth is overdeveloped, we are miserable, we need to develop. A very distinguished scientist, he was a vice president of International Council of Science. He said, Professor Lee, if we were to die, let's die together. But that doesn't have to be dead. I think if we understand that the so-called development is really exceeded, then country in Asia and Africa will find a new way using the current science technology and develop a society in a different way. So-called overdeveloped country has to transform into a sustainable society also. But we have to stop talking about developed country, that developing country to imitate. This is not the way to go in the current situation. Well, so when I say we are overloaded, then you certainly would ask me, what are the crises? You say we are facing crisis. What are the crises? I think one thing which will hit us immediately is the rising temperature. In climate change, extreme weather events, that is going to hit us very quickly, very hard, and actually it's already taking place. If you look at the temperature rises from 1800 to 2000, temperature certainly is rising. And IPCC last time, we said, 90% sure this is man-made. This time, we said 95% sure those are caused by mankind. Maybe a couple years later, we said 99% sure it is caused by human activity. Then the next step, we said, so we are going to disappear from the surface of the Earth. That's not going to be good enough. But this temperature rise is certainly caused by human activity. And at that time, IPCC said, we have to control the temperature from before Industrial Revolution period to about 2 degrees above that temperature. It is 0.6 degrees up to so-called zero at the present time. So what we are saying is we should limit the temperature rise to 1.4 degrees from now. Why 2 degrees? That was really not a very good way to communicate with common citizens, because we wake up in the morning, by lunchtime, temperature is more than 2 degrees up, and in a day, temperature could fluctuate more than 5, 10 degrees. And if you look at the season, you go to Mongolia, from minus 50 degrees to plus 40 degrees, for the fall season will change to 90 degrees. And they said, you scientists are so stingy. We don't even care, 90 degrees, talk about 2 degrees. But when you said, body temperature is 36.5 degrees, you were to raise the temperature by 2 degrees, what's going to happen to you? I'm going to be sick and lying on the bed and said, I cannot go to work today. Then raise another 2 degrees, 40.5 degrees, doctor will immerse in cold water. Otherwise, your life will be threatened. In Earth, it's a system. It's really very sensitive to the temperature, not just 2 degrees. So let's look at this. If temperature were to rise from here, going up, and you look at the risk to unique and threatened system, it's already pretty bad, yellowish color, and then situation becomes worse and worse, because turning into orange, into red. Risk of extreme weather event that we are concerned about most at the present time is already something bad is happening, but distribution of impact, negative for some, positive for others, aggregate impact is not that bad. But the important thing, risk of large-scale discontinuity. Even temperature would go up by 2 degrees, still in the cycle. So it means that the life will be miserable, or we don't have to worry about will disappear. What I mean is, when the ocean starts coughing, emit of carbon dioxide and methane, the temperature suddenly out of control. From Siberia, from frozen land, lots of methane release, then you will go to discontinuity. But the IPCC report in 2007, mostly based on the scientific data accumulated in 2001, said that would not happen. So said 2 degrees. 2 degrees means that we can have carbon dioxide concentration up to 450 ppm, 2 degrees. Today we have 400 ppm, 50 ppm to go. Every year we increase 2 ppm. It means 25 years, much longer, 25 years. But more recently, Smith and co-workers published a paper in the Proceedings of Nature Academy of Sciences and said, actually, temperature dependence on the climate is really worse, much worse than what we have been thinking. So risk of extreme weather, we are already starting to get into drought, flood cycle pretty bad. And one thing he pointed out here is if we allow temperature to go up to 2 degrees, then we have some finite chance to go to large-scale discontinuity. That's really bad. If that were to happen, it's really bad. I think our next generation will not forgive us. When I was born, Earth isn't too bad. But now it's very bad. I do feel that I'm responsible, together with many of the older people. And this is a picture showing the flood. Flood in America for 1950, people going up and going up. Of course, flood accompanies some drought. After water vapor evaporates more and more, a lot of energy release. There's a fluctuation, so drought and flood will come along. And Europe also goes up. Africa, Asia going up. Certainly in monsoon Asia, this region will be affected quite seriously. At that time, only Oceania is the one which did not have much precipitation. And many of my friends in Australia said, hey, you should come to live here with us. If there's a nuclear warfare, bomb will be thrown this way, not to here. But you know, 5 months later, it's a major flood in eastern Australia. About the land of France and Germany combined, it's flooded with water. And actually, no place will be immune from this global change. And this is the impact of agriculture. And data obtained by UNEP shows that when temperature rises, what will happen? Most of the poor area, agriculture will have a negative impact. And some of the area will have slightly positive impact. I was in Beijing a week ago. Some of the people in the cast said, "Lee, global warming will be good for us." I said, "It may be good for us in the model for a short time. When you go to discontinuity, no place will be safe." Well, at the present time, 20% of the world topsoil in agricultural land has already been lost. And the protection by World Bank, I think this is really research done by Boston Research Institute, Shanhua and co-workers, and say 40% to 80% of cropland in sub-Saharan Africa will be lost, 40 to 80%. So they present us an enormous dilemma. Population is expected to go up, food consumption is going up, food production needs to go up by 80%, and then there's a UNEP prediction that food production will go down by a factor of 2 by 2080. So you have a grandchild, 3 or 5 years old, you will see that when you grow up to my age, what will be happening? Go down by factor 2, or up by factor 2, war, famine, and this is something which is quite serious. The second thing I think will come very quickly is disappearance of biodiversity and the ecosystem. I did mention about 1/3 of the food coming from fertilizer, another third of the food are coming from pollination by insects. This is already happening when we start using a lot of insecticide. Bee disappears. 3 years ago, there's a TV show showing one of the counties in China, where they depend on the pear production, bee disappeared. Ask government to help. Government said, how can I help? And government said, the way you really maintain the production is to pollinate yourself. So they made later, climb up the tree, using feathers to pollinate flower by flower. And when you see farmers using later to climb up the tree and pollinate flower by flower, you say, what a stupid thing we have been doing. Bees been doing it free of charge. And actually, nature service producing more GDP, more than GDP produced. We're bringing it and then climb up the ladder to do the pollination. And actually, we are moving to that direction. Near the coast, we know, around Philippines, Taiwan, Indonesia, for about 30 billion people, livelihood depend on raw fish, and that is disappearing rather quickly. Ocean acidification, temperature rises, flowers disappearing. And recently, when the government said, let's protect fish, they are not protecting the fish. They send ship, warship, to try to protect the fishing ship to go to the ocean to catch fish. And this is called protecting fish. We're doing the wrong way. Of course, with rising temperature, disappearing biodiversity and fading ecosystem, we will see stubborn world raging crisis that will become very serious. And that's something we still do not understand. We thought food are plenty. So WTO said, open up the market, buy whatever you want from the other country. So that situation will disappear. That will cause lots of problems. You look at the roller coaster of food prices. When food prices were to go up, we will immediately see starvation fighting for the food, and food will not be peaceful. So I raised the question, if the population will be 9.6 billion by 2050, and 70 more food will be needed. And UNDP is right, food production will go down by a factor 2. And somebody said GMO, they tell it. I don't believe so. Ruin the ecosystem, and crops are lost, no matter how much GM food could help. I do not believe it will solve the problem. So we have to talk about pathways to global sustainability. How can we make our Earth, human society, sustainable? We have to do many fundamental things. First thing is, we have to look at the global problems and respond globally. Last year, I went to Rio Plus 20, and on behalf of scientific community, in my view, 3 minutes. And the end of the Rio Plus 20, I would say it's a total failure. Many countries made a proposal first. The United Nations is a nation-state-based coordination. If any country opposed to anything, to start to delete, at the end, conclusion is not binding, nothing really concrete. So I do feel that the Rio Plus 20 is a total failure. But a lot of people say, oh, I'm not a total failure. But given this organized science committee, and now UN will define sustainable development goal. Okay, sustainable development goal might take 10 years to write up. But the change we are causing and what we are talking still have a very big mismatch. So unless we learn to work together, I do not believe global problems will be effectively solved by nation-based system and approaches. So NGOs like World Festival Center really need to go beyond the national boundary and try to solve problems. The other thing is, I say we have a great divergence away from sunshine, away from nature. I do not believe that we keep on destroying the environment, nature, ecosystem, and human society will survive. We really have to go back to sunshine and go back to nature. And when I say go back to nature, many of the youngsters born in the big city, born in an apartment, live in an apartment all his life, didn't know what do we mean by back to nature. As I said, when I was young, during the Second World War, I lived in the mountain. And I learned so much from the nature and enjoyed so much. And that's the environment people should live. Not in a small apartment in the city. That's really not a good environment. And when we said we should go to the low carbon society, what we are saying is depending on the solar cell, windmill, and we are talking about going back to sunshine. Actually, agriculture also. Sunshine is so diffuse. Energy will be spread so widely. Land should carry more people. Not everybody flock to the city. When we are pursuing industrialization, manufacturing, competing in the marketplace, formation of big mega cities might have some reason, but we should then develop agriculture based on supporting more people on the land. Vegetable will play a very important role. So back to sunshine. Sun, in an hour, will transmit the amount of energy which is about equivalent to human society use for one entire year. Of course, 70% will be in the ocean, but sunshine in 1 hour, the energy can transmit to the earth, some of human society use for 1 year. If we start to do enough research and organize the network, we can go back to sunshine. It's no question. We don't need the nuclear energy. We can go back to sunshine. But because we neglect the use of sunshine for the last couple hundred years, it takes some time, but within 50 years, we'll be able to go back to sunshine. And it's interesting, I said sunshine is diffuse. You go to countryside, you can generate electricity, and cow or grazing on the grass, or feeding by the corn, and that will be more environmentally safe way to do it. And some of the people are suggesting don't eat beef which is not fed by the grass. It is fed by grain. It's really not very good. The second thing is we have to learn to live better or less. We should not build our comfort by keep on consuming so many good. You can go to listen to music on weekend in the park. I was in Poland, in Warsaw. One weekend I went up in the park, green park, beautiful. People sitting there in the middle of the park. It's a piano, and pianists are playing Chopin's music. Wonderful, beautiful sunshine. Nobody producing carbon dioxide by driving the car. The following week, I went back to San Francisco. And every week, on the weekend, people driving up the shopping center, who go to do sightseeing. All the places are full of cars. Every car produces 100 kilograms of carbon dioxide. We really have to learn to live better or less. And I think you agree with this. if he were to eat less, eat vegetable, rather than keep on taking carbohydrate protein intake, he will be healthier also. And I'm not only talking about the food consumption, industrial product, we have to live a little simpler life. When I was in Sri Lanka 2 weeks ago, 75% of Buddhists. That's the country, it's the highest human development index in South Asia. Carbon dioxide emission is only 0.6 ton per person per capita, a very high literacy rate, exceeding 90%. The healthcare was good. And I was there, I did enjoy visiting a good cultural heritage. It's a stupa built 2,400 years ago, almost like a pillar, very large. Also good things. But before I left, I knew if they start to build a freeway, build the airport, and so-called sightseeing country will be ruined. But these people in Sri Lanka, I keep on thinking, how should I move? How should we move? And that will be going to be interesting. I just don't want to see the development means destruction of ecosystem. Well, other thing, the control the population. If we allow population to go up by 40%, as population goes up, starvation will increase. 20 years ago, 1994, there are 50 Academy of Sciences. And actually that meeting was headed by Tandem, the president of Indian Academy of Sciences. He came to the conclusion and said, if current predictions of population growth prove accurate and patterns of human activity on the planet remain unchanged, science and technology may not be able to prevent irreversible degradation of the natural environment and continued poverty for much of the world. Last year, just before Rio Plus 20, Intel Academy panel, with more than 100 academies, repeat the same thing, say the same thing. And this is something we really need to face. Like Taiwan, Korea, Japan, population is going down. As some of Northern Europe, people say, well, population is aging, we have lots of problems. I said, a simple solution is, if everybody live healthy, the definition of old man should be at the same age of 75. I'm 77. I'm not, I would say I'm an old man, but I still want to behave like a young man. But if we define 75 as the old age, and the people keep on working, then aging problem will be largely solved too. And we know places like South Africa, India, security for parents, education for girls, employment for women, sustainability for all. That is something we really need to do. I was in India attending the Indian National Science Congress. So Nimasan, in his talk, he did propose something about controlling the population in India. The other thing is great equality. In the entire earth, people feel that we own it. Rather than 1% of the richest people own 40% of the asset, problem will not be solved. Everybody should feel that the earth is ours and should have equality. This is the food. 1 week's food in Western family. And I think people sitting here, you say, Taiwan is close. Taiwan is close to this. But probably not as much. And this is the food our family eat for a week. What a big contrast. And so, when we talk about, when Brundtland said, sustainable development means development which satisfies the need for the current generation, but not to compromise the need for the next generation. And I suddenly asked her, what do you mean by development?
Is Taiwan overdeveloped? Or is to be US? It's developed. Sri Lanka is a developed country. What do we mean by development? What's the need? Are those the need? Or that's the need? If a boy was born in San Francisco or Los Angeles, San Francisco is not bad. In Los Angeles, you say, I need a car. If I don't have a car, I cannot go to school. I cannot go do anything. So that's my essential need. I need a car. And he will say, I was born here. I have no choice. I was born in Los Angeles. I need a car. But people in Africa will not agree. How come everybody has a car? So there's a lot of philosophical discussion of what we are talking about. So there's an organization called ICSU. I'm the president of the National Council of Science. Organized from 80 years ago, after the First World War, scientists, mainly the union members, International Union of Pure Applied Physics, Pure Applied Chemistry, and all those material science, all those unions, scientists got together and said, we really need to strengthen international science for the benefit of society. When through the Second World War, people have stronger commitment that we have to work together. And that is the largest of this global organization of science. We have now 120 national members representing 140 countries, scientific union, which are the ones providing all sorts of information for IPCC to make policy decisions. We do have a secretariat in Paris, regional offices in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and Caribbean. Now, as I said, we have the vision of strengthening international science for the benefit of society. And we are working together with many organizations and made in a global program called Future Earth. ICSU started to organize Earth System Sustainability Research Program, but that changed into Future Earth. And objective of Future Earth is to provide the knowledge required for society in the world to face risk posed by global environmental change and to seize opportunities in a transition to a global sustainability. This time, scientists have to go to a transition to a sustainability, not just saying what will be happening. And so, last year, kick off, we already have a scientific committee in the process of forming engagement committee, governing council, executive secretary will be selected with many nodes all over the world. And then we will be looking at dynamic planet, transformation towards sustainability, rural development. Those projects are just started. And that was part of the reason I've been running around. I have to finish my talk so I can catch the flight to Japan and give a talk in Japan on the global environmental action. But anyway, I want to thank you for listening to me. As I said, I like vegetable. I did get the sense of accomplishment planting vegetable when I was young, and I do understand it is important. When we solve the food problem, change the diet, convince people in Asia not to eat too much meat. And that was easier in Sri Lanka. 75% of the people are Buddhists. And they only believe men are equal. All the creatures are equal. And so control the desire, and they have lots of philosophy that we can tap on. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for your interesting presentation. But you depicted that we should increase our reliance on the sun and reduce the reliance on non-renewable resources. But do you see, as a scientist, that we need to do a radical change in the way we do science, or are we actually on track the way our science system works today, and which in your vision, and what we need to change?
I think the way we do science certainly need to change. The way we are doing science, really, it goes into the university will depend on the discipline. So I often talk to university students that you're animal, you come here and say you're a monkey, and put in the monkey cage, and from tomorrow you eat banana in the cage, they say, I'm a monkey. And university education, kind of this way at the present time. Except some of the entrepreneur, you go to like air entrepreneur, he would not take anything as a limit. When he set up the airplane company, he would learn everything related to the airline, including some of the transportation, even how the airplane was made. So things have become more and more complicated, so one has to be able to cover many areas. In ancient time, when we said a scholar, he knew science, humanity, social sciences. We are the ones, we narrow ourselves into discipline, and then all the time talking about cross-disciplinary. So I think our education has to change. We do need students to be specialized. At the same time, you need to have a good core education so you can jump out into other areas. The other thing is, see, we scientists always do science and transform the fund into scientific knowledge and technology. And that's a lot. And somebody will transform through innovation process to take the science and technology into the social productivity of the society. That has to be completed. Many scientists say, well, we've been talking about science for science. But now you look at the problem we are facing, we should change into science for society. I say, it's really not simply so science for science or science for society. Well, I would say that we need to take the knowledge to connect it into action. Connect it into action. And people say, well, science has to be able to influence policy. Policy people say scientists should learn some political processes to help them. So those are an interesting thing. At the University of Chicago, I did teach science for non-scientists. And those are the ones who will become congressmen or future president. And that was an interesting experience. But we do have to make some change on what we are doing. On the Earth system sciences, when we bring young people together, all those students who are in the Earth System Sustainability Center, or those who has the position in the area, thriving, doing well. And you don't find anybody from the Department of Physics, Department of Chemistry, come out and do this. They are not secure enough, they don't know enough. So we do have to change. We have to learn to solve complex problems. We need to connect the knowledge into action. So if I have a chance to talk to any policymaker, I'll be most delighted to do. Tomorrow, I have a chance to talk to Japanese politicians from Crown Prince, Prime Minister, and all the ministers will be coming to the Global Environmental Action meeting. So I'm very happy that we finally, I even shouldn't say finally, but I do have a chance to engage with them, and especially I speak Japanese fluently, so I have a chance to make some impact. I've told them on my airplane schedule.
Actually, has to be the latest 10:15.
10:15, so I have to. Yes, they are fine. Yes.
Hi, Beth Mitchell from Horticulture Crisp. Thank you very much for a very thought-provoking presentation. My question relates to whether you've seen analyses done that would indicate that we can sustain the populations that are predicted with more of a focus on the sun, as you described it. Has anyone done a prediction to really look and see whether we can feed people perhaps at a different level, but people can have a reasonable livelihood under that scenario.
You see, when the population goes up to 9.6 billion people, and prediction of FAO is to say that the food requirement will go up by 80%. That is assuming the diet will be changing for the people in Asia and Africa. We will be eating more meat. And if you eat more meat and change the grain into meat, it might take 5 kilograms to change it to 1 kilogram. And that is the biggest load. If everybody becomes vegetarian, then you can have more people. It is the population consumption related things. So if population goes up, consumption will go down. And only eating more healthy food, and we have to drive less. We have to have organization of society. People can walk around to get all the problems done in 20 minutes. No need a car. So all the consumption has to go down. Then we can have more people. I tell you one interesting thing. When I describe when I was young in the mountain, only depend on sunshine, I think I only use about 2 kilo energy, approximately. The amount of energy I use to just maintain warmth and do some activity. Now, in the States, in the United States, or the so-called developed world, energy using is more than 10 kilo, maybe close to 17 kilo in some of the country. Do we need that much energy? We're overdeveloped. We certainly do not need it. A group in Netherlands is working on 2 kilowatt society. If we reach 2 kilowatt society, then population pressure will not be so high. And the bad thing is population goes up consumption right now. The consumption will go down.
I think everything you're saying makes complete sense, but I guess my question is, has someone really done a thorough analysis of this? I mean, economists and whatnot, who could really look at whether that pencils out in the end, if all these changes were made.
Yeah. The International Program for Future Earth, this is the first time in the list of natural sciences, social sciences, humanity, and all policy makers will come in and co-design. But scientifically, still the same thing. We have to have our observation, modeling, analysis, and make prediction. So this 10-year program will give us a more precise picture. How can we go? What will be the limit? But Abu Dhabi Society, 25 years ago, they made an important, interesting suggestion when they're talking about global warming. He said, if we move all the Americans to Africa and let them live like Africans, then there's no more global warming. But well, of course, not too many people will be happy. But that's a reality.
Thank you, Dr. Lee, for enlightening us on the future of the low carbon society. But if we look at it, the industry and the business, they are the major contributors of the 2 billion carbon every year. What influence this International Union of Science is doing on the business and industry, especially because the governments are really not able to regulate, even though there are many regulations for environment protection, nothing is happening. But how this science union could influence what our plans are?
If you look at the development of economy in Japan, preceded by Europe, Japan, look at Korea, Taiwan, and all other Asian countries, the development is all industrialization, manufacturing, and then compete in the export market. And that is okay. If the earth is infinity and you keep on expanding, even when I went to California in 1962, Southern California is not developed or not destroyed at the time. So people say, come to California, stay higher education free. So for a period of time, we can keep on cutting the wood, changing the land into industrial land, losing the capability of some to recycle the material, and our economy is developed when the earth is infinite. But now, we know earth is finite. So after Rio Plus 20, there's an article written by Greg and said, it's not three pillars supporting our society. It's not the environment, economy, society. Everything is surrounded by environment. That's the limit. And if there's no environment, there will not be society, there's no economy. So we do have to change. As I said, we started to overload the earth, and earth is not infinite anymore. So we have to understand the boundary condition and change. So China now realized that you cannot keep on making those industrial goods and try to sell to everybody. I can wear a pair of shoes, but I cannot wear 3 pairs of shoes at the same time. And that model of creating, consuming, that's the expansion of the economy, or petrochemistry, automobile industry becomes the locomotive of economic development. Those times are gone. So economy will be different. Certainly, many of the decisions have to be top down with the people's awareness. Make a decision is the major reason things could change. And I do believe that as extreme weather hitting us more and more seriously, government will pay more money to adaptation or mitigation. And there wouldn't be much less money for do research. If you look at Japan, it's interesting. As the society become an aging society, government is putting more and more money to the older people, taking care of them. They have the vote. Younger people in the school age do not have the vote. So sometimes you heard the voice that said, hey, you guys, leave some money for us. Why don't just use up? And if we keep on doing this, 50 years later, if there will be real plus 70 million again, I can imagine that some of the young people will reach my age at that time, and even younger people sit there and say, you didn't have a chance to protect a living ecosystem, but you didn't do that. You put us on trial. So I do have a tremendous sense of responsibility, and that we do have to do something. We have to change.